filming or just holding a sign or just something where there's probably not going to be any trouble or even interaction with the police, then
No, I don't want them to die. I don't want the cops to get killed or people shoot cops. I want them to be pizza delivery guys, be peaceful, and leave college girls alone when they're crying, and stop going into people's homes, stealing their property, and putting 9 stitches in their mouth and breaking my nose and shattering my eye socket and
headbutting you.
And headbutting me.
I mean,
yeah. That stuff needs to stop.
Really? Like,
or blowing babies' faces off with flash grenades.
Yeah, you got me there. You know, yeah. I don't want any of that either. And unfortunately, a lot of times when we're in a situation with police, we have to tone down our confrontational natures as much as we
Officer
can.
Matt Griffin, why didn't you just start a daycare center? Why did you have to do this job?
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to.
Yeah, you know what? You'd have made it. You look at Thick Neck there. You would have made a great MMA fighter. Why don't you go there? It's like it's all consensual. It's fine. No one else gets hurt other than the one guy. Like, why don't you just do that instead? Offer alternatives. That's one thing I love about the Threat Management Center in Detroit is that they're offering a real alternative. Like,
it's amazing.
That's
I love that idea. I love it.
That's the biggest thing I run into when there's people who are traditionally defending the role of the police. They're like, yeah, well, you hate cops, but then, you know, what are you going to do when people are kicking down your door trying to steal your stuff or whatever? There's always they're like, yeah, well, you're complaining about cops, but you don't have a better idea. And it really helps to have that sort of, well, there is a better idea. There is a better idea. They don't need to be doing this. I'm not against.
It's basically a monopoly. In most towns and cities, you have to call them. You got no other choice. But when somebody comes and does something to me, I don't want to call them because I'll take my chances with take my VC out because I am not bringing that douchebag in my house with a badge.
And so offering those alternatives, even if they're conceptual
DVD
alternatives.
player.
You still have a VCR, I was going to say.
Yeah, I don't.
Here's $5. You can take the DVD. I'll pay you to take it away.
Use recycling collection surcharge right there. Just pay and be like.
Yeah, because I don't know anything about Bitcoin yet. Yeah, I'm still working on that.
Hey, well, you know, you're in good company here. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can find anyone during the conference who can hook you up.
It's been explained to me 300,000 times, and
do you
I
have
do
a
not
smartphone?
get it. I don't get it.
Do you have a smartphone?
If I can learn how to use it after having it for a year, you got to tell me.
We'll work on you. Again,
I'm 1985.
JP's trading in gold and silver, not because he's an ideologue. He just hasn't figured out Federal Reserve notes yet.
how is this paper like worth money, man?
I'm still working on getting out of A-Tracks.
Yeah, I got some seashells. Do you accept those?
So for the alternatives, and you brought up a good point. It's not necessarily that some sort of protection agency, like having a protection agency is probably a good thing. Just like, you know, if the fire department wasn't funded by tax dollars, I would definitely have a subscription to a fire protection service because, well, if my house catches on fire, I want somebody to come put out said fire.
Get some burn insurance.
Right.
The people the people need it for it.
Well, before even that, if you think about a lot of things, take your car for example. If you have a loan on your car, they're going to require that you have car insurance. And same thing, like if you have insurance on your house, the insurance company is going to require you to have a fire protection service to even cover it. Same thing, like you get a discount if you have a fire extinguisher in your house and stuff like that. I mean, so it's not like that these services are, like if you defunded these services that there wouldn't be the option to have this type of service available to you. And that's the same thing with cops, that I want to have. If I wasn't forced to pay for what I currently get, I would definitely have a subscription to some other service that would, you know, drive by once in a while, make sure nobody's breaking into my house when I'm not there, you know, and come out should I need them.
The amount of laws that the legislature has put in place to protect these idiots is amazing. They're making it almost impossible to go after a particular officer, especially during my lawsuit against the PD, it was amazing on how many times their lawyers brought up qualified immunity. What qualifies them to have immunity? They busted my face open. They caused over $25,000 worth of damages, in hospital bills, and we had to move because they ended up coming, and stuff like that. And it's amazing. You just can't go after these people. You
right.
Can't.
That's also one problem too. Is a lot of people are like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's not going to affect me. It's like, well, if you live
until it does.
Well, if you live in a town where a cop does something wrong, you are on the hook for the money because the cop isn't going to lose a single dime because he's not going to be personally responsible for his own actions. It's the town that's going to end up paying for it, and then which means if you own property in that town, you're going to be paying more taxes. So yes, you are affected by the bad cops in your town.
The conflict of interest too. I want to touch on that real quick. Because if I want to make a complaint, let's say against Officer Benjamin Nugent, his immediate supervisor is Sergeant Simons, okay? I have to go to Sergeant Simons. That's the policy here. If I go to Sergeant Simons and file a complaint on him, believe it or not, Sergeant Simons was the best man at Benjamin Nugent's wedding. And he said he can actually do that objectively.
Right. No. Why are complaints or anything investigated by their own people? It's ridiculous. Of course, they're going to find they did nothing wrong. I mean,
yeah, and that's the one thing.
Yeah, my cousin, twice removed, is making a complaint. They're throwing that thing away.
Exactly.
Now
that's one thing when people defend the premise of having a police force. It's like, yeah, I know these corrupt this. I understand abuse that, but we need cops. We need something. And what they're not saying we need the police force as it is. What they're saying is we need some kind of protection of some kind. And some communities and some pockets of community, unfortunately, mostly the wealthy, do have a lot of private security. You got a gated community. There's a guard at the gate. You got a nice nightclub. You got a bouncer or few. And there's people that just take care of the basic, make sure nothing bad happens. And no one ever complains. No one's ever like, oh, fuck the gate guard. You never see that going on because he actually does a good job.
He provides a legitimate service to the people who live there who want it.
And so if you start pointing out more and more that there's other solutions to this problem, that this heavily unionized, corrupt, very aggressive kind of force is not what solves the problem. And I think one thing that gets it across, sometimes in my off time I design t-shirts, and this one that I designed has like a riot cop on it, says, "We break you, you pay for it." And because that's what ends up being a lot of times is, look, you're paying for these people who are just injuring you, they're hurting you, they're out to get you, and you're paying for it. Why don't you pay for a guy who's actually going to serve your interests?
Well, with this call center thing, and this is coming from somebody that's basically a newborn into
the threat management.
Yeah, the threat management. Yeah, there's enough. If there's enough people, I think Free Keene has the groundwork set for actually to get it done. But I was just watching a video that I think Derek J was playing at the KAC, and I was watching these old videos, like just way before me, when Free Keene first started, and I'm seeing maybe 35 to 50 activists, and I don't see any of those people around now. And I keep asking her, where do these people go? Where are they going? Where are they going? Oh, they used to be involved. They used to be, and looking from the outside in, somebody that's, just coming in, I'm like, where are all these people? You have enough people right there to actually make one of those call centers, but they're all gone. How do we keep people,
they burn out.
Right,
it's an intense lifestyle we live right here.
Right, and that was actually one of my questions. How do you deal with burnout or not getting burned out? Because right now I'm super burned out. Like, I haven't been out cop blocking for almost a year now, and I haven't been doing the radio show for a couple months.
Exactly. Well,
I have so much going on, and it's hard to maintain this.
What we're looking for when we're trying to replace police is we're not looking for a high-intensity activist group of people. We're looking for maintenance, right? People just be there and just show up and do a basic service. You know, you can just go to work today, punch in, punch out, you know. And what we're doing right now is because we're the radicals trying to create a new world. It's just in constant mode, in constant work mode, never shut up on Facebook. You know, everyone in our family defriends us because they can't take our posts anymore. Just nonstop. And then no money, right? Getting very little money out of this whole thing, if any, and just constantly putting yourself at risk, being that first one to get arrested for something that later people won't get arrested for. It's just people burn out, and I don't blame them.
I'm not getting burnt out by cop block. I've had some serious.
It fuels the fire in your crazy head.
I've had some serious personal issues. We're talking 2 months straight, and people that know me personally have known what I've been through, specifically this week too. And now that the victory has happened, I can go ahead and start focusing back onto the cop block activism. But as far as getting burned out, I actually enjoyed going through all those personal stuff. I enjoyed coming to the CAC and scrubbing the paint off the floors for 2 hours and cleaning out the top floor. It took me 3 hours. 6 bags of trash got taken out. I mean, that was kind of like therapy for me, but that's just my personality. But I'm looking at these videos and I'm seeing a huge amount of presence at these 420 rallies, and we're going back 4 or 5 years. I'm seeing huge presence with protests and jury nullification outreach and don't take a plea outreach, and I'm a newborn and I'm looking out from the outside in. I'm seeing one or two people at the court now doing that. Guys, and it's the same people every single day.
It's occurring to me that we're nearing the end of our allotted time, and I see that we have people lining up to ask questions. We want to open it up for that.
Yeah, go for it. What's up?
Let me adjust that. There's been a little talk about alternatives. So we talked a little bit about the I'm Getting Arrested app, which I use. There's the Peacekeeper app out there. There's Community Watch that's a big thing, and I know the Oath Keepers are promoting that. And to some extent, there's militias. There's alternatives to keeping the peace. Any ideas about what we can better do to promote those alternatives, real alternatives to police? And is that a role, or can it be, or should it be a role of Cop Block to promote these other alternatives?
I know as far as Peacekeeper goes, I think that's currently my favorite project that's out there, and I hope it maintains. We talked to the creator of it probably, almost a year ago now. He's put in 20 grand of his own money to get this thing going. It's gone a lot farther since then, and I know it shows up on the Cop Block feed probably at least once a week at this point, getting a couple 100,000 reach. So I think that's the one that I like the most, because it's not specifically towards police as well. It covers fire and medical emergencies, and I think there's one other abduction. Yeah. So I think those are. I think that's my favorite idea now. For those who don't know, Peacekeeper is basically an app where it's a quick one hit. You load a contact list, and you have separate contact lists depending on the emergency. So if it's a medical emergency, you don't really need to contact these 3 people who know nothing. You might want your nurse friends or your doctor friends, and if it's a police emergency, you might want those other 3 guys because the doctors aren't going to do crap for you. I think that's my favorite one right now. Obviously, it still has a ways to go for mass acceptance, but